guys, and welcome to today's Los Blancos podcast. Today we are doing the Real Betis review, and what a game. It was finally Real Madrid win for the third time this season, including the Atalanta game, and Kylian MBAPPE finally gets off the mark. I mean, I was so happy when Kylian MBAPPE finally scored. You know, it just felt like it felt like you released a ton of bricks on top of your head. It felt like such relief. You know, you can't explain, because everyone was on him, and you finally got off the mark twice in one game. The floodgates have opened, and it just feels so good, especially going into the international break, because you felt if potentially Kylian MBAPPE had, he had not scored today or yesterday, he would then gone into the international break without a goal for Real Madrid apart from the Atalanta game. Then you were talking about the media talking for the next 2 weeks, and Kylian MBAPPE can't do really anything to respond. So it's so good to have it back. Obviously there were, it could have been better from Real Madrid from minute 0 to 90, but in the end, getting the win is what's important right now. With us trying to make this mesh together and trying to make this gel together, getting the win is the most important thing. But I thought the overall performance was much improved by Real Madrid in this game. I thought certain guys contributed a lot more than they normally did, and I was very happy. So let's start with the central midfield. I think I've been criticising Tchouaméni, Valverde. Tchouaméni in particular, I've been criticising a lot this season. I said that double pivot can't work, and Ancelotti changed it around yesterday and played Tchouaméni as a single pivot, and with two central midfielders around him, with Ceballos and Valverde, and that worked fantastically, because not only then did Tchouaméni have the ability to just, he responded with a fantastic performance, especially with the way I criticised him. A lot of people criticised him after the game against Las Palmas, which was rightfully so. It was quite bad from him. The way he responded today with his passing was amazing. Defensively, he looked a lot better against Real Betis than he did against Las Palmas. So he was much better, and as a result of playing this single pivot, he allowed Fede Valverde to have a little bit more freedom to roam, which really helped us. I think it really did help the movement, helped the fact that it freed up a few of our attackers. Rodrigo especially, I think, benefited from Fede running down this right hand side, and the amount of times Fede just broke through that midfield and just did one of those runs where he goes from 0 to 60 and so quickly. He just goes so quickly in those runs, and it's impossible to get in the way, because if you get in the way, you're getting absolutely bulldozed. So it was fantastic from Fede, and I think he was ridiculously good. Both defensively, it was that one against Abde in the first half, that challenge against Abde where he just sprints back, and Abde hadn't been really running, so you can imagine, Fede's been running up and down, and Abde hasn't really been running at all, and in that race, Fede just absolutely destroys Abde and wins the ball back. It was fantastic from Fede. And then on the other side, I mean, I don't want to, that assist is like, it's ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I think to break the deadlock as well, this is the second time we've had 2 wins in La Liga, and it's been his fantastic play that's broken the deadlock twice. I think everyone's praising Valverde after that performance, and I think rightfully so. He was ridiculously good, and I think so far this season, there's no doubt, I think he's been my best and favourite player so far this season, 100%. And I think long may it continue, because he's doing absolutely fantastically. I also want to say one thing about Ceballos. I think a lot of people are overreacting, saying Ceballos didn't play well. I thought Ceballos was completely fine. I don't understand why everyone hates on Ceballos all the time. I think he was fine. I think he provided a lot more stability that we needed in that midfield, because we play Arda, we play Modric, we play Brahim Diaz. All of those guys are great, but if you're gonna play these guys, you're gonna have to drop Valverde even deeper, which I don't think you want to do. And Ceballos allows you to have a little bit more stability with that. And so I'd be inclined to say Ceballos needs some more minutes, because I think maybe he's not better than Modric or Arda Güler in that position, but I think he improves Valverde a lot more, and I think he improves Tchouaméni a lot more, and I think that's probably more valuable at this current moment in time. And I think that midfield looks very nice with him in the midfield. So I think Dani Ceballos would be I think this would be a huge addition to have if he can improve his own personal performance, because I don't think he was that great, but I didn't think he was bad either. So maybe if he's a little bit better, I think he was tenacious, and I think that was important for us. So I think just improve his individual performance just that tiny bit. You think he was a bit sloppy at times, but I think Dani Ceballos could be an important addition to have in that midfield. But obviously, I do want to talk about Rodrigo as well a little bit, because I think he was the best attacker on the field, in my opinion. I think he created 6 out of 6 chances in this game. I think there's a lot to be said about Rodrigo, because it's very clear to me what changed, and that is the fact that Rodrigo stayed high and wide on that right hand side and stayed to that right hand side, which is so important, because Real Madrid, we need this width to make it work. And it's no surprise, it's no coincidence to me that when Rodrigo plays and restricts himself to this right hand side and keeps himself on this right hand side, it was his best performance yet, and it was the team's best performance yet. I think for me, it was just really good from Rodrigo to keep that width on the right hand side, and I think he should benefit from this as well. It's not just the rest of the team that benefits from this. I think he will benefit from this, because he often or not will have a one-on-one each time on that right hand side, because the fact Vinny and MBAPPE are going to have this gravity. So I think if he keeps himself on that right hand side, he can imagine to get more and more of these chances. And I think he was really good in this game, and I really enjoyed his performance. He was unlucky not to get a goal or assist in this game, but obviously with the first Mbappe goal, I think he contributed a lot by bringing the ball deep, and he had a lot of runs where he gets away from the defender and causes problems for Barod in this game. So I think a really good performance from Rodrigo, and I think it shows you what Rodrigo has to do. I've made the comparisons to the Barcelona game, saying where Real Madrid needed to improve, and so I think Rodrigo playing high and wide on that right hand side is a big step in that, because it provides everyone else with so much more space to play. This game was so much more open for Real Madrid to play in than the games we have played in previously. Maybe that is due to playing a harder team, so-called a better team in Real Betis, who are probably more inclined to attack us. But I think Rodrigo playing on this right-hand side is so important to us, breaking down these teams and making it easier for us to break down these teams. So Rodrigo played really well, and I was really happy with Rodrigo's performance. Then, what should we talk about next? I think Militao. I mean, the defence overall I thought was pretty good. I thought Militao was really good. I think he kept Ruibal on a leash for up until he came off Ruibal. So I think Militao was fantastic on Ruibal. I think this was much improved from Rudiger as well. But I think it has to be said that Real Betis didn't have their preferred attack available. I think so. All of this has to be taken with a pinch of salt, with the fact that they were essentially playing Ruibal and Abde up front, which is obviously not ideal for them, and Rodri had a really bad performance from them as well. So it wasn't an ideal situation to have those three as their main attack. So obviously that has to be taken with a pinch of salt. I thought Ferland Mendy was poor in the first half, but when Fran Garcia came on, I think he was a lot better than Ferland Mendy. I think Fran Garcia's performances this season so far have been very convincing. I've really enjoyed Fran Garcia so far this season, both defensively and offensively. I think Fran Garcia hasn't looked a liability on the defensive end, and so you know, especially after last season, that's a huge thing for us. And then on the on the offensive end, obviously such a big positive over Ferland Mendy. I think it has to be said, for me, it does look quite clear to me when you're playing against a team like, I don't know, Mallorca, Real Valladolid. I think it's important to have Fran Garcia in that team, and I think Fran Garcia should replace Mendy in those games. Me and Sean normally always talk about the dynamic between Coentrão and Marcelo in the past, and I think we normally create parallels to the ones that we have here right now. And so I think something similar should potentially happen, because it's just, I think Ferland Mendy is just not useful at all in our attack going forward. And so against these teams you're trying to break down, who are doing well against you, you just need that little bit more oomph, and I think Fran Garcia gives you that. Obviously he could potentially cost you defensively, but I think against these teams it's worth it, and I think he showed that once against Real Betis, and I think he was really good. So I was really convinced by Fran Garcia, and I think going forward, this I'm really happy with Fran. So yeah, hopefully, you know, he can see some more minutes. I think it's very clear that he's playing well and playing at the top of his game right now. Then I think let's talk about Brahim Diaz as well. He came off the bench and came up with a brilliant performance, I think, off the bench, especially after the midweek performance in which he was absolutely dreadful. To come up with this performance where he was really good. I enjoyed his performance a lot. I think it's really important to have. I think if we just keep this going, I think he's obviously a huge factor for us to have. And in the fact that, you know, the second goal as well, the one that Vinny won the penalty for, I think his run was ridiculous, and he did this quite a few times when, you know, defenders are actively trying to foul him, and he just didn't go down, and he would go forward with the ball, and he would create, you know, proper danger for Real Betis to deal with. I think it's so good to have this guy who's impossible to foul, you know, just to bring down is impossible, and I think that's so good to have off the bench against tired legs, you know, is so good. And yeah, I think it was really good, and a really good response from Brahim Diaz after the midweek game, in which he was really poor. So yeah, I was really happy with Brahim Diaz. But I mean, let's talk about the first half performance as well, because obviously not everything's good. I think that first half performance, we did struggle to create a few chances. I think Real Betis did do really well defensively to keep us out. Sabali, I think, had a really good game on Vinicius in the first half. You know, all things considered, I think he did have a good game. I think, you know, I made the comparison yesterday on the preview, talking about the movement between Vinicius and MBAPPE, saying it wasn't as good as Rafinha and Lewandowski, and I do stand by it. I think they still have some ways to go to fix that and trying to create those movements. You know, all things considered, you know, Rafinha and Lewandowski have been there for 2 years now, so you know they're obviously going to be more comfortable with each other than these two are after what, 2 months. So yeah, I think that's obviously something, but like, you know, that's only going to improve, right? So I think, you know, it was much better in terms of the movements. They were playing off each other better, but still you could tell there was just that final connection missing. You could tell that, you know, once, you know, if Mbappe had got this pass right, and then Vinny would be in, and then if Vinicius had connected on this, it would have been in. But it's all of this stuff where you're thinking, just that final connection is all that's needed, and you know you're there. You know you're talking about 3, 4, 5 goals in a game, and so that's a potentially huge factor for us to once that gets clicking between them two. I think it could be huge for us, and I think what improved so much in this game, you know, to bring it back to Rodrigo, I think what improved so much in this game is that the fact that, you know, it wasn't just Vinny and Mbappe versus 1,500 defenders. It wasn't just Vinny and Mbappe versus the right back, centre back, defensive midfielder, the right central midfielder, and then the right winger as well. It was Vinny and Mbappe versus the right back, the centre back, and then the defensive midfielder coming to track back as well. That's what's important, because in a 2v3 with Mbappe and Vini, I fully have faith in them two to make it work, and I think they did that in the second half. There was a lot of connection between them, and so that is so important for Rodrigo to stay high and wide on that right, so that Perraud is occupied, to make sure the centre backs are occupied, to make sure that the central midfielders are occupied, to have Fede and Rodrigo keeping up on that right hand side, keeping the width is so important to maintain that individuality between Vinicius and Mbappe, to keep those one-on-ones, because I keep on reiterating it, but it's so important, right? It's so important to have Vinicius and Mbappe be able to take their man on, to be able to engage in those one-on-ones, because that is where these two are the best players in the world at. At the end of the day, that they are the best players in the world because they cook their defenders repeatedly. All right, that's just a pure fact of the matter, and so that's where I want them to be, and that's what I want them to be engaging in. So for me, that's my thoughts on that. I think I was much, all of this is down to Rodrigo and Valverde and Carvajal keeping the width on the right, and so when that happens, you can see how much more space they've got to play with, so much more opportunity that they've got to play with, and so that's so important to have heading into the next few games. I think obviously let's talk about Kylian Mbappe now. I think I've stalled for long enough now. It was much improved from Kylian Mbappe in this game. Much improved, and I think we all got that sense of oh no, what's happening when Mbappe missed that offside chance. The one where Vinny hits it off the post and then it comes ricocheting back to Mbappe and he just skies it. You just feel like, damn, is it gonna happen? Is it actually, is there something genuinely wrong? And you could tell Mbappe was feeling it a little bit as well. Obviously, football players are unflappable. That you can't get to them. If me or you were to go up to Mbappe and try to talk shit on him, then I don't think that would work very well at all. But you could just tell that some things were just Mbappe was thinking, and you could tell that some things were getting into his head a little bit, and so it was so important for that first goal. And I mean, it's just his movements are fantastic. Kylian Mbappe is a very intelligent footballer, along with that raw speed, which is obviously a devastating combo to have. I think to read that from Fede Valverde is fantastic, because I don't think there's any person in the world who reads that. To be totally honest, that is a fantastic read from Mbappe to go and make sure that he's onside as well. And so that finish as well was really good, especially for a man who's looking a bit out of confidence in front of goal. To have that finish is obviously huge to have, and so that was much. I was really happy with that from Mbappe, and he's obviously getting a lot of shots off, and that's the important thing, right? You're getting a lot of those shots off, and it's Kylian Mbappe in front of goal. Eventually he's going to score, and now I'm hoping that the floodgates have finally opened. He scored. Hopefully the confidence just allows the goals to keep coming, because if the goals keep coming, I don't see a way that we can be stopped in terms of trying to go for a 0-0 draw against us. I think eventually even against the Mallorca there will be one chance. You can't stop brilliant footballers for 90 minutes. You will eventually give up a chance. It's just whether those brilliant footballers can score those chances. And so if Mbappe is lacking confidence, then you're a lot more confident to play against him. But I think if he's on this form, one chance is all that's needed, and that's what's happened in these last few years for Real Madrid with Vinicius. At the end of the day, you might criticize his overall performance, but one chance is all that he needs, and then boom, you're 1-0 ahead, and suddenly you have to open up a little bit more. So really happy with Mbappe, and obviously to get your first goals to the Bernabeu is a fantastic achievement for him, and hopefully it's not the first. It's not the last few goals. So yeah, I thought the second goal, obviously people want to stir up shit from Vinny, but I think it's a penalty. I think it's a very unfortunate one on Joey Silva. I think you can't really do anything if the goalkeeper, if you commit like that. it's all up to the attacker to see if he goes down or not. But you know, what can you do at the end of the day? If you're Luis Silva, I feel for him. It's not something that, you know, I feel those type of penalties, I don't like them, to be totally honest. Where the guy, you know, where the attacker actively draws his foot to make sure that he wins the penalty. But Vinny's just playing the game. You can't get at Vinny for that. You know, Vinny's playing the game. He's winning the foul, and I ultimately at the end of the day, you know, if he's going to do that, you know, it's up to the Spanish Football Federation to go ahead and say, you know, this is no longer available to the attackers to do, and we will book you if you just try and do that. But I don't think that's possible either, to be honest. And obviously the gesture of goodwill from Vinny, to give the ball to MBAPPE to take the penalty, I think it's really, really good to see, because people obviously want to go ahead and say this about Vinny, say he's selfish. I think that's nonsense. I think that's total nonsense, because I've seen Vinny with Rodrigo, with Bellingham, with Benzema, always trying to help his teammates, and non-stop so far this season, maybe sometimes to our detriment, is Vinny trying to get MBAPPE an assist, is Vinny trying to always play to MBAPPE. I think sometimes that's a little bit to our detriment, but you know, you can see Vinny's trying to make things happen with MBAPPE, and so you can't call Vinny selfish. I think that's the last thing you can call Vinny. So yeah, I think I'm more than happy with Vinny's performance, and I'm really happy with how Vinny played overall against Sabali. I think he was really good. I think one more thing I want to talk about Vinny as well. To the people that are going to criticise Vinny for juggling the ball in the game, you know, people always say this about guys. I remember Richarlison doing it. Was it last year? Maybe the year before. But you know, at the end of the day, that's on the player. If he gets kicked, that's on the player. Fine, all right. But if he's willing to do it, that's fine. You know, the same guys who want to criticize Vinny, the same old Spanish geezers who want to criticize Vinny for this, are going to be the same guys who hail Ronaldinho. It's going to be the same guys who hail Neymar for being so individually brilliant. And people who are going to say football is dead, then look at Vinny and say, what are you doing? You're provocating the other opponents. I think that's ridiculous. You obviously, Vinny knows what, you know, you reap what you sow. At the end of the day, if Vinny gets kicked, I know Vinny knows that, you know, his actions will have consequences sometimes, and so I think Vinny can accept that. But I think it's completely fine if Vinny does this, and I think the old people who are going to be, what are you doing, all of that, I don't care. Okay, I think it's good for the game if Vinny does this at the end of the day. And I don't think it's up to you what Vinny does, to be honest. But I think the penalties also, you know, let's talk about that quickly. For me, the first one against Diego Llorente, I think is the type of thing that, you know, often is often given, and so therefore on that basis of on consistency, you should probably give it. But it is also something I don't want to see given, to be honest. It's unfortunate it hits his hand, and you know, Llorente really has no ability to stop that from hitting his hand at the end of the day. But you know, often you do see that get given, and so as a result, you probably do have to give it. Then the second one though, I don't see a way in which you cannot give that. You know, Sabali literally drags Ceballos' leg out, and literally 2 weeks ago against Valencia, Barcelona did this exact thing. It was against Mosquera on Rafinha, ? It was Mosquera on Rafinha, and it's literally the exact same play where, you know, Rafinha manages to get his leg in the way of Mosquera and the ball, and Mosquera just kicks through Rafinha, and therefore that's given as a penalty. It's literally the same thing. Ceballos inserts himself in between Sabali and the ball, and Sabali kicks through and doesn't even touch the ball. That's got to be a penalty. There's no if, buts, or maybe about it. You've got to check that on VAR, and you've got to give it if you're going to be consistent about it. But obviously we're not going to talk about it because Real Madrid won in the end, and so therefore that penalty doesn't matter. It's inconsequential in the end. But I still stand by my reasoning. I think you have to 100,000% give that as a penalty. So nothing you can do. And just a quick finishing note as well. Endrick has obviously came off the bench in the latter stages of the match. Obviously, not much time to impact the match, but still, nonetheless, it did impact the match. Had one chance. I think you see how good he is at doing this. He's just so fantastic at managing to get something on the ball to get a shot away. And it was unfortunate. It wasn't the greatest of shots, but his ability to get a shot off is ridiculously good, and I'm so happy with Endrick. And hopefully he can. He's doing something that a lot of Real Madrid youngsters struggle to do, which is get himself minutes for early in the season. I think you saw Arda Güler struggle with this. You've seen Martin Odegaard struggle with this in the past. And at the end of the day, he's finding this so easy, and so I'm so happy for Endrick. He's doing really well right now. So yeah, really good for Endrick, that is. But that being said, we are heading into international break, and overall, I think we feel a little bit better about ourselves going into this international break, because we do end on a win, and it is a much needed win, because if we had dropped points, it would have been either 7 points or 6 points behind Barcelona, and that is just not what you want to see. So if I was to quickly read you the La Liga table, the top half anyway, the ones that matters. Number 1 Barcelona on 12, 2 Real Madrid on 8, 3 Atletico on 8, 4th Villarreal also on 8, 5 Girona on 7, 6 Alaves 7 Osasuna on 7 points, 8 Celta on 6, 9th Leganes on 5 points, and 10th Mallorca on 5 points as well. So we've got work to do. 4 points behind Barcelona at this stage is not what you want to hear, but at the end of the day, you just got to deal with your cards as they're dealt. You just got to work with it, and go ahead and try and reclaim those points, because there will be moments where Barcelona drop points, and so that's going to be important. But one final thing I forgot to touch on last time. I totally just skipped my mind last time, which was the Champions League draw. Overall, I did think we got an easy time of it. First game in Stuttgart, sure, that's really, really intriguing. Lille, second game. Third game, Dortmund, rematch of the Champions League final, that is. AC Milan, that's European heritage. Then Liverpool, lovely. Can't wait to see Vinny and MBAPPE versus Trent. And then after that, we've got Atalanta, so obviously Super Cup final replay. And then Salzburg, and finally Brest, away at Brest, which is very intriguing. I mean, all of this, one of the main things about this new league stage is we're going to have to play different teams, and that's been one of my main complaints about the Champions League, is the fact that I never get to cover different teams. I always have to cover the same old Man Cities, the same old Liverpools, the same old Chelseas, and all of that. I want to cover different teams. I want to talk about different teams and force myself to look at, force myself to look at Brest, force myself to look at Stade Brestois, force myself to look at Stuttgart, force myself to preview Lille, Salzburg. And that's the exciting thing, when you're playing against European teams, you want to go to different European cities, you want to look at different, experience different European cities. And I think this new league stage, I do have my criticisms of it. It's unnecessary matches. I think it gives the smaller sides a lot less chance of qualifications to the latter stages. But that's not for me to decide at this point. But at least we get to talk about some different teams, so I'll be intrigued to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, obviously international break this week. I have not decided whether we're going to do a podcast next week. Maybe we'll do a La Liga seasons next week, but that is it for today. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's Los Blancos podcast. I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time, or next week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.